All right, welcome everybody to another episode of We All Speak in Poems. It's been a while. We took a little bit of a break for the last 6 months or so, but today we're back with a very exciting episode with Kraig Adams. He's a YouTuber and minimalist and hiker and a whole lot of other things, which we'll delve into in this episode. So I hope you enjoy it. Right away, I wanted to ask about your move to Colorado, how that's been, because you moved from New York, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. About 6 months ago, we moved from New York, my wife and I, and our puppy Sasha, and we picked Denver for some reason. I had been here. We wanted to try the mountain life, outdoorsy type of lifestyle, but after 6 months, we've kind of realized that we want to move back to New York.
Oh yeah.
We're like the nightmare for everyone here, all the locals. They're like, these New Yorkers moved out here and now they're going back. It's like, it's kind of funny. It's sad.
What's in New York that's not there? I guess, is it the people, the convenience of the city, or?
Yeah, we've slowly realized that our families are in Israel, so connected by airports, and then mine is on the East Coast. So it's family's one thing. It'd be easier over there. And our friends are in New York and on the East Coast. And we're just not outdoorsy to that degree. Colorado is a special breed. People who live in the mountains are kind of wild for outdoorsy things. And we've realized we just like cities. We like to walk around and get coffee and go to nice restaurants and do city things.
That's very surprising to hear coming from you.
Yeah.
You're like the hiking guy, the outdoorsy guy.
But I guess that's your job. So where does your job stop and your personal life begin, right? And living in the city probably makes that easier for you to disconnect from that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But through my work, I feel like I get more than enough adventure and outdoor stuff. Yeah. So yeah, you're right.
That's fair. Yeah. Making it so it's not your entire life. You do get a little bit of a break from it, because we've talked a lot about moving from Toronto to, Alberta or Vancouver or something like that, where there are mountains. But I guess it's also the opposite, where our work is it's very much not being outside. It's very much cooped up in an office or whatever, most of the time alone too. So being able to have that option of mountains and all that seems very nice, but, it's an interesting perspective. I guess for you too, though, majority of your job is probably editing in your office, right?
Yeah. And things are shifting this year. My mindset is totally plans for 2023, what went well or didn't work in the previous year, and what do I want to do differently. So probably more office work. As much as people put the label of hiking YouTuber on me, I think this is the year that I renegotiate that social contract I have with subscribers and get back to literally doing whatever I want, not just hiking. So we'll see.
I've kind of noticed that a lot with your YouTube platform. You've delved into so many different things, and recently you've started your podcast where you did talk more about that, and you were kind of letting all your ideas out that you have for yourself in your future. And it's very exciting. And I think it's really cool that, at least this is how it comes off, that you don't really keep that pressure of fans on you. You're doing what you want to do. You're experimenting with things you're interested in experimenting with. Is that right? Yeah. Or do you have a bigger pressure there that you don't let through?
No, it's nice knowing that you took a look into what was going on. But I think you're right. The fans, the community can be a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. They're great. They're fans. They're helping you do what you do. And there can be some sort of social friendship in a weird way. But on the other hand, there's a bad side of constantly asking other people, what should I do? Where should I go next? Yeah. What did you think of this thing I created? Because it starts to, have some negative effects. Just always making stuff for other people and caring what they think. But it can be a good thing and bad thing. It just depends on where the criticism or advice is coming from.
Yeah, and I've always felt that you had a good sort of balance of that, because you very often do ask your fans, what do you want to see? What did you like? What did I do right here or do wrong here? But at the same time, you also try new things that probably a lot of people probably haven't recommended. Like even the podcast, I'm sure a lot of people do ask for that, especially for behind the scenes stuff. And you were doing those streams after your hikes and all those, which were really cool. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but you know, it's really cool. And with the bringing up the podcast that you've been doing, like obviously me and Chantel were looking a lot into you the past couple of days, but we listened to both episodes and it ended up turning into like a 3-hour conversation with me and her, just like going off of what you were saying, like especially with my job and trying to find out what to do. You know, it's a really interesting conversation, and I think a really interesting mindset that you have to have when you're doing a job like yours or mine or whatever.
I think a lot of creative people in creative positions get really stuck in the rhythm of things. Like you get so used to people responding well to your solo silent hikes that you feel that pressure to just continue doing that, but you don't have to. And you seem like someone who really does constantly try and fight that and think outside of the box.
Yeah, my life goes through waves, so I feel like I did the thing and now it's time for something different, because if I kept doing silent solo hikes and what people like, I would just be more and more entrenched in having to do that. And like I said, I'm renegotiating the contract, you know, getting back to whatever it is. And whether it is the podcast, even like calling something a podcast is kind of, I don't know, crazy to me, because I see so many similarities just between normal YouTubers who just talk about whatever they want versus like what is like a podcast, like is it audio only? I don't know. So yeah, just getting back to making videos about whatever I want. And then if I go on a trip, I can go on a trip. I don't have to.
True. Yeah. And that's something that we took a lot from your, you know, podcast and stuff too, is like you really love vlogging, right? And sort of documenting your life, it seems. And, you know, there's so many genres.
For selfish reasons.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many genres to explore there. Like, and you've sort of done, I would say, most of them. But yeah, I'm really excited. Do you have, so with your plans going into 2023, do you have anything extra special planned, or is it just like literally month by month, you're just trying to figure it out still?
I have big goals, but I'm a fan of doing things in the smallest, easiest way and then building upon that success and working up from there. So the big goal would be to stream more and then to produce pretty much all of my content from those streams. And then, like I said, if I go on a trip, I would do it in my own way. If I do sponsorships, I want to do it in my own way. I've got some ideas for how I can do both of those differently. So whether the community likes it, whether they don't, you know, the more I kind of upset people about what they expect, like the sooner the better, because like over time they'll either leave or get on board. Like as long as I'm doing whatever I want, making the videos I want, that's what's important. And yeah, I already shot a video that's called Plans for 2023 and I'm editing it currently, so it's very funny. Like, do you get in this mindset of like thinking about the year ahead in January? Is this a typical thing for most creative people?
I think so. Like, especially in music, you kind of have to plan ahead, because I was going to ask too, like what your editing sort of timeline is, but like with music, you make the songs and then you have to wait like a year, and then by the time it comes out, like I'm releasing my next album, but it's been done for a year.
Yeah, but not always. Like when you were running things solo, you could make music and literally the next day have it out. But because you're with a label, it's all a little bit more scheduled and planned and more thought out, I guess.
Yeah, but at least for me, I've always been like 2 years ahead.
Yeah,
you know, in plans for the most part.
That's very interesting. I personally see everything in terms of just how much freedom versus how much money and growth. And it seems like there must be some tremendous benefit to signing with a label if it takes that amount of creative freedom and like posting what you want, when you want, where you want.
Well, exactly. And what you just said, like the positive is guaranteed income, right? Instead of fluctuating income every month. And who knows when you'll get paid. Sometimes just
curse money.
Exactly.
It causes so many problems. We just want to do what we want to do.
Exactly. You like sometimes distributors from, you know, Spotify and stuff, they'll just miss a month and then you won't get paid that month, or it's late or it's early sometimes. And it's very strange. There's no regulation. Whereas from my understanding with YouTube, at least, like you're constantly getting paid, right? AdSense, at least from AdSense.
Yeah, the Google financial system is purring along and sending me paychecks every month. That's a small portion. Well, a piece of the pie, but yeah, third-party sponsorships and random businesses can be here or there when it comes to payment. But yeah,
this, in terms of payment and monetization and stuff, this brings up an interesting thing. So there's a YouTube channel that I watch called Colin and Samir. You've probably heard of them. They're great. Oh yeah.
More in their merch.
Press publish, right. And they often talk about how creators can make relevant merch or relevant whatever monetization. And something that you did was those group hikes, which are very interesting. When we started hearing that you were doing those, I didn't look too far into them. But how did those work? Did you team up with some sort of travel guide company, or was it all independent? Or yeah,
I originally planned on doing it myself, but it started to become too much work and a lot of communication and planning and booking. So I went with a large company called Trova, and they took care of everything. All I had to do was sell tickets, which I did. But that turned out to be a very convoluted process, and the tickets were just sold so far in advance. And I realized that I had no control over the trip itinerary, which was, in hindsight, the biggest problem. I just didn't have fun on these trips. And when I'm not having fun, it's hard for me. I'm a very introverted person, so it's amazing that I did these trips in the first place. But that didn't work out. I did 4 trips with Trova, and then I did 2 trips with a mom and pop shop doing the exact same thing, but just on a smaller scale. And this husband-wife team, were I was literally texting them, and they were actually there on the trip with me, and it was just so much better. So out of those 2, I'm going to continue to probably work with the mom and pop shop, Vagabond Trails. But, in line with plans for next year, I might only do 1. I'm not going to do 4 or 5 or 6 like last year. I definitely got burnt out with those because it's too good to be true. They're you're going to make money, you're going on a cool trip for free, and we'll take care of everything for you. And no, it doesn't work out like that.
Did you find that the people signing up for them were they must have been pretty big fans, but were they there for the hike, or were they there to meet you, or was there this weird dynamic there?
Or was it more of an educational thing too? That's what I was wondering, if people were trying to also kind of pick up the solo hike YouTubing, seeing how you do that, or just learning how to hike successfully, right?
Yeah. I had expectations that they would be more creator type, trying to learn, but a lot of these people were just super fans who had never been out of the country and wanted to go on their first trip, and this was a good example or a good reason to do so. A lot of these companies try to upsell workshops, so whether it's selling one-on-one consultations during the trip, or just come over here for a special amount of money and we'll teach you something. But I didn't want to do that. I feel very uncomfortable teaching people directly for money. But they were all nice. A couple were young. Some couples went on the trips. I made a couple friends, but it's a weird thing meeting your fans. I don't know, especially when hanging out with them for a week. It's not my thing. I don't like it.
Yeah. I think I'm in the same boat there with you.
Yeah. It's a weird dynamic where they know a lot about you and you don't know anything about them. So there's a lot of expectations, and everyone was nice. Everyone's pleasant, but for me to go out of my way and do it over and over again, just doesn't make sense for me. And the only thing that would make it worth it is if I made a bunch of money doing it. And I also feel weird about that. Yeah. So I wouldn't want to charge ridiculous amounts of money to have the privilege to go eat some Bavarian food with Kraig in the Alps. No, it's stupid.
I mean, it is interesting though that, that people do want to do that, right? They will pay a lot of money just to hang out with you. It's pretty cool. I understand your mindset, and I also would feel uncomfortable with that, I think. And I think so would you. but it's just very interesting. Like you're somebody who just posts videos on YouTube, and it sort of creates this hierarchy, whether you like it or not, whether we all like it or not. And that's a whole other topic, but it's a very interesting little thing to get into your mind, I think.
Yeah. And it could be lucrative if I started my own business, because it is a good product. I am generating interest for people to have the same experiences that I've had. And what better way to do that than to go on a trip with me? It's like a live stream of the video that I'm creating, but you get to be there with it. It's an interesting idea, but once again, I'm just not what everyone else expects me to be. Like, I literally don't like, I just don't want to be in social situations like that. I don't like the pressure. I don't like charging for education. I would rather just have complete control over the itinerary and not be told what to do, where to go. Yeah. Yeah.
So interesting. So cool.
Yeah.
I'm a diva. Yeah. So one thing that I was going to ask you before we got sidetracked talking about me, Jesus, like the music that you're making, like have you always been able to protect like making the music for yourself, or is that not important to the process? Like, do you ever think that you're making music for yourself?
I think that I always make music for myself. Like, for the most part, when people ask me to, go back to an older sound or whatever, like, the truth is I'm not a very good musician. Like, in terms of theory and stuff, I can't just switch it and be like, oh, I want to create this mood. It just literally has to be, I'm creating how I'm feeling during the day. And it, if that gets released, it gets released. But, yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I've never really felt that pressure to have to conform to what a fan wants or whatever, though, for the most part.
No, though, because you have admitted many times that, like, you try to follow the algorithms that will get your stuff on certain playlists and stuff. But that was also really before going onto a label. And that would have been the process of trying to make money more consistent, was getting on playlists. So you had to conform your sound. And personally, I feel like your stuff used to be a lot more raw and emotional. And now you really try to kind of steer away from that.
Yeah, lately I've been wanting to just make kind of neutral music, whereas before I made what I called sad, dark music. But yeah, I've definitely conformed to, Spotify's, gatekeeper algorithm, whether I like it or not, or whether it's intentional or not as well. But it's interesting. A lot of people have like really negative sort of experiences on the internet, right? Especially YouTubers and stuff, where you get comments all the time, and people expecting too much and all this. But the people who have always listened to my music have always been very respectful for, just they get what they get with what I put out, right? And I don't know if it's something I've done or if it's just, the right fan group. But it's pretty interesting. And that comes onto the topic of music, with you and how you choose music for your videos. How do you think about that? Because a lot of the time it's ambient, piano, or lo-fi, I've found. Is that just what you gravitate towards, or is it intentional because it just like fits obviously your Iceland video fits ambient music, but it could also fit, whatever else. So like, what's your
process?
What's your process?
Yeah, over the years, I've definitely moved towards more cinematic music than most, just inspired by the movies that I love and just being personally affected emotionally by music. I wanted that in my videos. But things changed with Hornstrandir Iceland. The hiking video that I used, your beautiful, sad, somber music. Mm-hmm. I had never heard music that fit exactly. Like, I knew cinematic music, I knew ambient, but your tracks for that piece were just so extreme. I was a little nervous to use it, but honestly, it fit perfectly. Like, it was hiking alone for days in the middle of nowhere with no one around. And it was kind of boring and sad and like somber and slow. And I was constantly thinking to myself and just like having these internal, like keeping myself busy and just like walking around and thinking. And the music was perfect for that. And then as I started to do more solo hikes, that type of ambient drone-esque music fit as well. But honestly, like there's just something special about the pieces that I used for that Hornstrandir one. And it's the one that blew up. It's the one that kind of changed everything. So yeah, it's just like interesting to reflect on, because like, I don't think if I used your music for that video, it would have turned out anywhere close to what turned out. It's just interesting to think about.
Yeah, it definitely is, especially because the music and the songs that you chose were very not, like you said, they weren't typical landscape music, you know? They were kind of noisy and they were very dark and somber. It's funny too with that video, like I've seen that opening shot of you in the bathroom window or the bathroom mirror so many times, because I always have to get the link for it for whatever, like a press thing or whatever. And, you know, it's funny because that video changed a lot for you, but it also changed a lot for me. And I'm assuming the other artists that you used in that video. The amount of messages I got and followers I got and people also wanting to use my music after that really changed a lot, especially through MusicBed, which I'm fairly sure you found it through. You know, it helped with that too. All of a sudden, other people started licensing my music a lot on that. And it really gave my music a distinct visual identity, which a lot of people still consider. And so, yeah, thank you for using the music, because it's crazy.
But just to go off of like the fact that you used that song to kind of set the mood for how you were actually feeling during it, when you first started your solo hiking trips, how did that go for you mentally? Like, I know you kind of did just touch on it, but did it get easier? Was it difficult? How did you get through that?
Yeah, the process was fresh to me. I'd never hiked before the Peru hike, which was not too far, you know, after Hornstrandir, or before in Hornstrandir. So I was making a lot of mistakes and choosing how many of those mistakes to put into the video. And I was starting to hike alone and travel alone a lot more than usual. And I was going through like a breakup, and I was trying to figure out how to make money with videos. So it was a very tumultuous time for me. I was figuring things out. Yeah, I don't know.
Did they feel kind of healing for you to go on these solo hikes and have that time alone to really just delve through things personally? Or do you think it would have been...
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was nice to like embrace being alone. And it's weird to be surrounded by people and feel alone, because you feel like you're out of the ordinary and like it's wrong. Like you have all these people, you could go do something and have fun. But when you are alone in these landscapes, like it's the correct feeling to be alone and a little sad.
Yeah.
So it matched. I haven't thought about it in that terms, but yeah, that makes sense. It solves my problem a little bit. Interesting. Is this therapy?
With that, it kind of reminds me, you know, because people do those retreats. You know more about them than I do, the silent retreats. And, you know, they're supposed to be very healing and all this stuff. I've never actually even considered it, because I don't know if I'd be able to handle it. But it kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though I guess it is alone, those retreats are with people, right? They're supposed to be silent for a week, or surrounded by like 50 people or something.
Mm-hmm. And then they do like meditative practices where they are closing their eyes and they can kind of set the tone for themselves and act as though they are alone. But...
On the solo hikes, do you find yourself talking to yourself? It's just I'm just got that in my mind.
Just in a funny way. More so talking to animals.
Oh,
like,
cool.
Nothing too crazy out of the ordinary, but like when I'm alone hiking, I do recall saying good morning to every bird. The first bird that I see every morning, I'm like, good morning, bird.
That's so sweet.
That's actually
silly things like that. And whenever I find a dog that's willing to like let me pet or play, it's the best.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions about the dogs, the hiking dogs. That is so cool. Like we've been hiking in the Adirondacks and Iceland and Colorado a little bit, but we've never run into an area where they have hiking dogs. How does that work?
Yeah. The ones in Nepal are real special because they live on the mountain. They're, big dogs with a lot of fur. The dogs in Spain were pretty cool. Every so often you're hiking past a lot of farms, so there's a lot of working dogs. Some dogs that are there to protect sheep, so they have those big spiky collars, and they're like, big dogs. But like I said, I'm out there by myself, so anytime a dog says hello, it's the best.
That's so cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I know, like you were saying, because we weren't even planning on talking about hiking this much.
Yeah.
Because we know, it's kind of a music podcast and all that stuff. And I know that you said, maybe not that you don't want to be considered the hiking YouTube guy, but how do you, if there was a genre for what you make in general, not just the hiking stuff, do you have a name for that stuff, or a vibe or a mood, or no, do you not really think about it?
Yeah, I don't think about it, and I don't go out of my way to do it. I can see why people would make bios or, they're kind of trailers for people who don't know you to quickly gain some sense of what you do. So I understand why they do it, but I struggle with being put inside a box. I just don't want any expectations from anyone to do anything.
That's fair.
I value freedom so much compared to what most people. So every ounce of freedom I can gain back in what I do, I try to do that.
I love hearing that.
Bios are such a small way of doing that, but I have to protect it.
I'm always not excited to do sort of the intros, even to these shows, right? To the podcast, where it's you have to put people into a box, you said, to sort of give people an idea of who they are.
It places a label on you, though, and then it's hard to break free from that label, right?
Yeah. But that's why I also like hearing what you were saying, going forward, you want to be doing the streaming thing and then making most of your content from the streaming, doing sort of, it seems pretty common now, but the Ludwig thing, where, he streams all day and then he has, I'm assuming, an editor go back through and make, 20-minute videos of the interesting parts. But what do you plan on streaming? I know you do your gaming and stuff. Do you just plan on brain dumps or?
Yeah, it's funny you bring up Ludwig because he's actually one of the big examples that I use in the video that I just shot.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a good example of someone who streams, but the creators that I see and follow, a lot of them produce their content in the same way. They have a computer with screens and then a camera, just like we have right now. And for this year, want to go back to just telling the stories of what is going on. If I go on a trip, there's a story. I usually do hiking guides, but that with everything, whatever I want to talk about, I do have a list of topics, and I like to talk about things in retrospect. So everything that I learned from, traveling, living out of a backpack, everything I learned about just the silent hiking genre, it's very similar to a podcast in the sense of talking about how I got to it, how it is right now, and then my plans in the future. But the guest on the podcast is kind of chat, and they can be involved in some way and help steer the conversation a little bit. But I love the idea of streaming and producing clips from there, and then occasionally vlogging for myself to remember my favorite memories. And I'm protecting the category. It's literally just going to be whatever I want to talk about.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of sort of, I always try to, internalize things in terms of music because it's the only thing I understand. But the streams and stuff are kind of singles, and then the vlogs are a little bit bigger projects, which are kind of like albums, which sounds pretty cool. Do you plan on doing that all on YouTube or Twitch as well?
I plan on staying on Twitch.
Oh, yeah.
No, YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just don't consume on Twitch as much, so I don't speak the language. I speak the language of YouTube, so I feel like I have a home there, so I should just keep, tending that garden.
For sure.
Yeah, and Instagram is just not as fun these days, and TikTok is just a crazy version of YouTube that I don't have time for. So
Yeah, it seems like a lot of work for not a lot of payoff on TikTok.
Especially, yeah.
Yeah. But kind of going back a little bit, you went to school for film. When you first went to college for film, what were, if you had any goals from getting that degree? Like, did you have big dreams of being a part of filmmaking and stuff, like a movie? Obviously, you still utilize your filmmaking skills, but were you thinking bigger pictures?
I wasn't experienced enough to have my own dreams, so I borrowed them from other people. So other people, you know, projected that I should be a movie director or a person on crew making movies, and eventually I'll earn the right to make my own. Little did I know, like, you could just do all of this in a smaller version and have more creative control. But people, you know, pushed me to do internships in Hollywood. I did an internship after college at MTV.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not at MTV, so you can tell how that turned out. There was just one point in my career when I almost had like a job at a marketing firm in New York City. But the moment I said no to that contract and went full into weddings, and then eventually like the business of weddings on YouTube, and then fell in love with YouTube and started just doing more freedom based work, more passion work. Yeah, that's a big, crazy answer to your question.
No, it's good. Talking about the wedding thing, we have a big question about your wedding film channel, because you mentioned that you sold it, and that was really interesting to hear. And looking back on it, I'm pretty sure we found it. The people who bought it still do upload wedding content, I think, right?
Yeah. So like this whole thing will be a wonderful topic to talk about, maybe in like a 3-part series, because it is a crazy story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I sold it, they sold it, and then they sold it again. So I don't even know who has it right now. It's never been the same. My video still exists there.
Yeah, we found that today.
It's crazy. It's such a weird thing to sell like a digital asset, like an email list on YouTube, you know?
Yeah.
Like to change those expectations, like those people are like, had no say in me selling it. It's weird. The subscribers.
Yeah, what was that process like? Was it just that? You pretty much just sold the mailing list, or was there more to it?
Yeah. Did somebody come up to you, or were you looking to sell it?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to move from weddings into whatever was next, which was New York City vlogging and travel. So I started to reach out to past sponsors. So I thought that like a Music Bed or Soundstripe or Artlist or, you know, media, like whatever companies that I worked with might want to buy it, because it's just like, they could probably just profit off of the customer base market. But it turned out that just individual creators who wanted to have a YouTube channel was more the customer for the YouTube channel. So I just negotiated that. We set up, he was a filmmaker in Australia, and he paid in installments. And then we did some kind of consulting, like waterfall, like I'll do like a meeting with you every month to talk about what you're doing with the YouTube channel during the transition. And then as soon as he paid all the money, I was gone. So he had all the email, like login stuff, and that was it. It was actually pretty easy to like transfer ownership.
That is so interesting. And I'm excited for this, you know, hopefully 3-part series of that, because I want to know all the ins and outs. I want to
like a Netflix mini series. No. Yeah. And just talking about the whole, like that whole chapter of my life was a big one. So there's a lot to talk about, even before the sale of it, like the reason why I gave up something that was making me money for the first time, and just the affiliate links with selling gear to wedding filmmakers on that tiny channel. I think it had like 80,000 subs, which is small compared to what I'm seeing now. But like I think I was making like 6,000 or 7,000 a month just from people clicking on affiliate links on Amazon, which was a lot for me back then, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like, it's so interesting, right? Because you find this on YouTube, at least, with a lot of niche, very niche content, where they end up almost being more successful with a smaller fan base. And that's a really interesting concept to me, because everybody wants to get as big as possible, but all you really have to do is grow and stir your little group that you already have, right? Yeah. Especially if it's, wedding photographers who are always looking for new gear to get the most sharp shots. And it's kind of like the whole financial side of YouTube too, right? Where their AdSense revenue is absolutely insane because the people who are clicking on them are looking to make money and willing to pay money to make money instead of, somebody who's looking to build a website on Squarespace. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And just the way that YouTube treats growth at any cost is kind of something that I don't think creators are really talking about these days. I don't know where you might get that pressure in as a musician, but YouTube has like every time you post, it's 1 out of 10 of your previous videos. Like, how does your recent video do compared to all the others? And then just the amount of stats that they throw in your face in comparison to the last. So you're always competing with yourself is insane. It's maddening. And this mentality that you should always be getting more views, more money, more watch time, just isn't healthy sometimes. Like, my goal has shifted, and yeah, for the first time, I'm like kind of almost losing subs, like almost, which is okay because I'm doing more of what I want to do. So it's like when you constantly just rate your success based off what YouTube thinks is success, that can cause problems.
So Brady's a huge stats guy. He loves looking at his stats and comparing and stuff. Do you find that you don't do that then?
It's hard not to.
Yeah.
I would like to less. In a perfect world, I would just create what I want and not get any feedback in that sense from people who don't matter. If my wife is like, Kraig, not good video, I'd be like, okay, let me look back at the video and think why. But yeah, getting so much feedback from people who just haven't earned the right to give you feedback in any sense, whether it's an email, a comment, or just a view. Like, just knowing how many people watched your video is feedback in a binary sense, and it could be good and bad. It can be addicting.
Yeah.
Are you addicted?
Yeah, I'm completely addicted to that stuff. Even with my YouTube channel for Alaskan Tapes, it's only got 4,000 subscribers or whatever, and it gets like 200 to 500 views a video. But even though in my scope, in my life, YouTube does not matter, it doesn't make me money. I'm a musician, I'm not a YouTuber, as much as I would like to be. I still pay attention to it and I still track it. And I don't know why I do that, but I also get a lot of joy from it too, right? Seeing the line go up, even if it's not going up very fast.
But then
line go up.
But then you also get a lot of disappointment when it goes down. So it's like, it does definitely control emotions in that way. Yeah.
That's true. Mm-hmm. It is very interesting.
When it goes down, it hurts because we saw it go up. It just constantly controls our expectations instead of us controlling our expectations for ourselves and our own goals.
And I don't know if you feel this way majority of the time, but for me, at least, like the stuff that I'm creating now, I think is way better than what it was before. So a video that got 50,000 views, and then the one that I think the song that I think is way better got 200. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, right? But it's also, I guess YouTube is a different beast because music is a lot of peer-to-peer sharing. That's how it kind of grows, or playlisting on Spotify now. But it just seems like a lot of stuff just doesn't get put in front of an audience. And I guess on YouTube, the algorithm does a pretty good job making sure it at least has a chance to be put in front of people, right? For the most part.
Do you relate to that mindset though of like your newest stuff is your best stuff, or do you look back and...
Sorry, I went ahead of myself.
And yeah, you kind of mentioned that quickly, and I just want to hear if Kraig feels that's the same way.
Yeah, I thought about like how I would answer that, and I don't think I know. It's weird because I'll watch some old videos and be like, "Wow, this is better than I remember." Mm-hmm. But then again, I don't know. I don't think I'm making things better and better. and I'm also trying to think about whether that's important to me or not. I don't know. Cause I've definitely, there's so many metrics, like the amount of work that goes in, the quality of the work, how aligned the work is with what you want to create, how much money you make from it. Yeah, whether it's good or bad. That's a tough one. I'm going to definitely think about that all day today. Thank you for that.
It kind of goes hand in hand with like the, people call it like the Mr. Beastification of YouTube, right? And this is something I think about a lot because I'm actively trying to go against that. And it seems like you kind of are too, with silent hiking, you're not cutting every 5 seconds and yelling into the camera kind of thing, which has always been a thing on YouTube. But yeah, it's nice knowing your mindset and how you're wanting to do what feels like long form content instead of, little bite-sized things, which I personally appreciate. And that's what I gravitate towards, even though, algorithms don't necessarily, right? But
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like growth at all costs, just trying to grow more money, more followers, more, just do anything to get that versus what do I want? Not letting anyone tell me what I want and then just figuring out a way to satisfy my own goals. Yeah, because I could go on a bunch of hikes again this year and do silent hiking and do what is expected of me and attach sponsors and make money and get views. But I got burnt out last year. And one thing that I want to change is just, I want to go on trips that I want to go on versus feeling like I need to go on one every month. So yeah, it's just renegotiating that. And it always comes back to like one for me, one for them is usually the way to go about it. Like
the Radiohead method.
Is that the Radiohead method?
Yeah, that's what they did for
that?
their albums, right? One for the label, one for themselves. Or supposedly, at least.
Did they talk about that or did people just pick up on it?
I think Tom York talks about it. But I don't know if that was
I think it's a healthy balance.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Do you identify with that method a little bit?
I want to say yeah, but I don't think so. At this point, I think I'm, I might be getting ahead of myself here, but I think I'm making music for algorithms at this point. I'm also kind of burnt out, as Chantel knows, which is a reason we're doing a podcast. Maybe I'll get some inspiration again.
Just trying something different, yeah.
Yeah, but there's this overwhelming pressure, which I'm sure you do too, just to get as much out as you can. And something I've never subscribed to, like I like an album a year, maybe an EP in between. But now it's like singles every 6 weeks. Do anything you can to get a song out, whether it's good or bad.
Gotta have quality control, though.
Gotta have quality. Exactly. But a lot of people don't, and a lot of labels don't. And it doesn't matter because as long as you have one hit on TikTok, right? That apparently is the only metric that people are looking at now.
Yeah. And how does a musician increase their productivity? Like, do you just overwork yourself? Like, what kind of automation could you do to like produce more in the same time frame? Like, I don't know if you would hire someone to like help you produce, or I don't know.
It's in my sort of genre, in the ambient genre, a lot of people do everything by themselves, including myself, right? So it's like kind of not frowned upon, but you want to learn every instrument. You don't want to hire session musicians all the time. But I don't know what you could actually do in terms of automation. Like, I guess honestly, just having a good, rigorous work ethic is like the way to go. Because eventually you'll make something good, and you can make
like is Drake doing everything on his albums?
Oh God, no. He's probably doing the least, right? He's coming into this.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's interesting. Like a lot of other creators have like kind of pressured me to hire an editor or hire someone to edit shorts, or I don't know, just go down that route. But I've never had success or liked it. I just wondered what it was like for musicians. Yeah,
it's definitely, it's very strange, right? Because with music, you're spending hours and hours and hours to make a 2-minute song or 3-minute or 4-minute. and musicians are so headstrong, right? They don't want anybody else, for the most part, they don't want anybody else to have any input into it. They want to be able to say that they did it themselves, at least in indie music. I don't know if there is like an answer to that. I don't know if there's a way to, you know, be more productive, more efficient. It's something that I thought about a lot. And definitely on the social media side, I think if musicians didn't have to worry about the social media side, we could be getting a lot more music done and maybe actually hitting the goal of a single every 6 weeks that is good and quality. But now you have to also focus on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, and which for the most part I enjoy, but also for the most part I hate. It's, you know.
Do you have to though? I like to compare creators to like what I see in sports or music, and one thing that I don't have good examples of people. Frank Ocean. There's like a couple artists who just drop an album and then just fuck off.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, Frank does
they
that for
don't
sure.
do social media. Frank Ocean is a good example.
Yeah.
Is that someone like, is that like an ideal in the industry, or are there just like hidden costs to that I'm not seeing? Because that's what I would like to do. I would like to just drop a video and then just dip off. You know,
I guess it goes artist to artist. Like another artist that did that was Niels Fromm. He deleted all of his social media.
jealous
I think.
of him.
yeah.
I talk about that all the time. I'm like, I wish I
Yeah.
could just do that. But he's also him and Frank are at a point where they don't need to grow anymore.
They
have
built a big enough community.
a huge community, right? Everybody loves Niels Fromm.
Yeah.
And he also started a label at the same time. So it seems like he just sort of shifted that, you know, that mindset into building a business, which is his label.
So this is the point that I am obsessed with, and looking at other creators across industries, what decisions they make when they have enough success. Do they just get more success and more money and more reach, or do they kind of level off and just gain back freedom and just, you know, do what they want?
Well, like Niels Fromm's, I think what you were saying is he did have that, and then he was like, okay, I'm good here. But then he also built his own thing with the label, right? So he's dipping into his other interests and able to gain a second form of success, I guess, like a secondary income.
Yeah,
But more aligned with what he wants to do, though.
exactly. Because
Yeah.
a great
So it's like the next chapter.
Yeah.
Exactly. And a great comparison is him and Olafur Arnalds, because they're in like the same camp. They came up together. They're at, you know, the same popularity for the most part, at least in terms of numbers and stuff. I'm not sure about their live shows. But Niels Fromm backed up from social media. Olafur Arnalds started doing more. He started doing documentaries. He started doing these long form dance stuff and posting all the time. And he's exploded, right? Like the numbers, Niels is about half of what Olafur is in terms of numbers. I could be wrong about that. But I guess it all has to do with your definition of success, right? Because Niels is probably stoked and Olafur's probably stressed, right? I obviously can't put words into their
But
mouth.
here's the tricky thing that I'm trying to figure out. Nils probably gained freedom, but is making less money and less people care and know about the things that he's creating, that he's truly passionate about. So that kind of levels off. But then this other person you're talking about, like, boosted and is more well-known, earning more money. But like, what's the balance of like that person taking that extra money, that extra attention, and then boosting whatever they want to be doing, their passion work, versus like, you could stall out too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes if you make a bunch of money, you can truly go do what you want and not have anyone tell you what to do. Like you get pure freedom. So it's like it's a weird thing. It's like one side isn't perfect. Like there's
Exactly.
problems with both sides.
Exactly. And this is, you know,
Yeah.
me and Chantel talk about this in abstract forms all the time. You know, like sometimes I'm sure you feel it too. You're just like, I do not want to post an Instagram post. You know, you're waiting too long or whatever. And it's like, what if you just don't? Nothing changes for the most part. Opportunity changes. But other than that, and even albums, like, if you're not posting every 6 weeks, who cares? Like, there's so much music coming out now. Like, I don't think anybody's going to miss an Alaskan Tapes release, as long as one comes, you know, within the year or something. But But it's this philosophy that's really interesting, especially now, especially with this sort of grinding culture that we have, where everybody wants to get as big as possible. But what does it even mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't mean anything really, because at any point you can just, I don't know, do the wrong thing and people don't care anymore, right?
Yeah. Whereas with some people, they have that choice to get to that level and then be like, I'm going to stop before it gets there, where either I'm burnt out or people are tired of me.
Yeah, which is what I've always wanted. I've always thought about when is my retiring point? When am I stopping Alaskan tapes? Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, that burnout point is important because we're talking about these things in the near term, but long term, people who just constantly do what is expected of them and what has been successful for them in the past, like down the road, it'll break them.
Yeah.
They'll get burnt out. Whereas if you you take a risk and you start doing more of what you are passionate about, sometimes it pops off. You know, sometimes it reaches a point where it becomes successful. So I think that's like the ultimate goal.
What is your passion? Like, if you could, you know, stop Instagram, stop all of that, what would you want to be doing with either your filmmaking or something else?
Also with infinite money. Yeah, no worries on money. That's always a fun question that puts people on the spot.
God mode activated. Yeah, I think just the freedom is really important to me, and I've been looking at why I need control in my own life, why that's important to me. I like to play. I like to experiment. I like to just do things at my own speed. I like to learn my own way. So like that control, that freedom is just super important to me. So as my passions change, my interests, just as long as I can do it my own way, I think I'll be happy. Video is a really good way for me to express myself. So I think I'll continue doing that for a while. I would like to become quieter and quieter as time goes on. I'd like to fade out, social media wise and like expectation wise. Personally, you know, starting a family is exciting to me and stuff like that. That's an adventure.
For sure. Yeah.
Going back to New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys have a timeline on that?
Our lease ends in May, but we're trying to think of creative ways to leave ahead of time.
Nice.
We're trying to calculate the amount of money like we could lose by leaving early versus the amount of joy and happiness. So it's like a weird, no.
We experienced that once. We were renting out a townhouse, and we were like, we're tired of being here. And we still had like 6 months on our rent. Yeah.
Do we pay the fee and just move and be happy for these 6 months, or do we just hold on and save that money and hopefully it works out anyways, right?
And we left.
Yeah, it's a metaphor for life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's really interesting.
Do I just stick it out and be an adult, or do I, be impulsive and just do what I want, whether it's smart or not?
Well, we kind of got lucky with it, because since we were leaving to buy a house, we presented that to our landlord, and he was like, oh, that changes things. You don't have to actually pay the full 6 months for whatever reason.
Yeah, he was really nice about it.
Yeah, so we did get pretty lucky.
Tell a story. Storytellers, get out of rent. Nice. That's dope. Yeah. I think one answer that I didn't get to about like what I would like to do is kind of go back to this mentorship role, because I ask myself constantly, like, why do I need to talk to people online? Why do I need to share any of these experiences? Like, who cares about, what I've learned? And what's been successful for me is just making videos for the older or younger version of myself. So like it's kind of silly to think about, but yeah, like what do I wish I would have known back in the day, and just make videos for that. And then if other people find that interesting and helpful, win-win.
For sure. And that's something that we've been going through with the podcast, right? We're kind of going the opposite direction as you, where we want to find something where we can post regularly and, grow something and hopefully inform people or teach people through guests.
And it's probably helpful for you to just talk out your thoughts as well, right?
Yeah, I was trying to find the words for that, but exactly. Like, it's also an opportunity to finally get to talk with people who I've been half talking with for 5 years, and then, we can also be, push each other with it and make it public and, but like, that's kind of, for the most part, on the back of our minds. It's mostly about actually just finally meeting people and reaching out and having a reason to reach out. Right.
Yeah. I've seen this across different aspects of my life and with other creators, and we use video and work to incentivize us to do the things that we want. Cause like we totally could have just jumped on a call and chatted with no one knowing, but having the podcast and making it public, making money, getting some kind of reach, just whatever all the extra additives of doing this podcast is, just incentivizes us to do the hard things that we want to do,
Exactly.
So it's all good. I used to be like weird. Like I was like, why do I have to have podcasts with my friends? Like, why can't I just talk to them? Like, but it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting, especially when people are on the other side of the world and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I see the similarities with like running as well. It's like running sucks. Like I don't want to run. There's good things that happen when I finally do it, but like to get myself to do it, maybe I should think of a running series. Like if I want to go
interesting.
on more trail running trips, like making videos and selling tickets is a good way to incentivize me to do it. But like I could always go do it. It's like, what's going to push me over the edge to do it? So I love using video. That's the thing that I've done my whole life. Like, how can I use video to get myself to do the things that I want to do?
For sure.
It's that commitment there. It's like, okay, I've started this. I've got to keep at it, right?
Yeah, and everybody else will see if I don't continue it.
Yeah.
Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
To get on the topic of music just a little bit, hopefully you have the time. I don't know, I guess we never put a time commitment, but...
I do nothing all day. My dog is at daycare.
Oh my God, I wanted to ask about that. That is so cool. And I love that you can actually see her on your screen too. Why did you guys make the choice to put her in daycare? Not to stray off, sorry.
I'm a little bit lost here. I didn't even know about this.
Oh, sorry.
You can hold off for a minute. We're talking about my dog.
No, I'm excited
and
about
Doggie
this.
Daycare. That is so cool.
Yeah, she's an Australian Shepherd and she needs to run. She definitely can be a little sad if she doesn't get the exercise. She's a crazy girl. So she goes to daycare and she never sits down. She's constantly playing. She's walking around, going to humans, going to dogs, play fighting. So it tires her out. It's great, And Denver's really good. There's a dog daycare on every other block here.
Oh, wow.
Everyone has dogs here. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
What's the sort of, because I know you're half training or maybe fully training her to become
a hiking dog,
a companion for your hikes and stuff. What's sort of what steps do you take for that? I don't, because we have a dog and we adopted him when he was 9 years old. He's an old guy. He's also very small, and so it was kind of regression that we were trying to do, like work back to what he should have already learned when he was
we were retraining him. Not regression.
So, bringing him to dog parks just to actually get comfortable with other dogs instead of barking at them for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Which he's gotten better. But I've always wondered, from a puppy, I just don't know How
do you start that training process, especially with something so specific like hiking?
Yeah.
I'd like to bring her on hikes. Logistically, it's tough, and usually when I do go on hikes, it's usually for work, which I'm changing, so I typically don't bring her. I've only brought her on small hikes with Mika, and really nothing that we've filmed. I'm usually doing international stuff, and we can't get her on a plane. She's too big. So as far as training, I was raised with dogs. I don't know the Cesar Millan tricks to training dogs. She could be more behaved and we could put more effort into her training, but I also like that she jumps up on me when I come home.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I'm also not letting other people tell me how my dog should act. Maybe she has a personality. Maybe she is a little energetic and wants to, be the way she is. So I don't know how much I want to change her, but she's good. She's happy. She listens, she's fine. on hikes. We can't let her off leash though.
Oh, yeah.
That would be nice, but she's not even 2 years old.
Yeah.
So, you know, she's
She'll
still a
get there.
puppy.
I know even with Oreo, when we first got him,
Oreo.
yeah, he's a little Oreo. He's a little Morky. He was not very good even on his leash. And
Yeah.
then, over time, after enough exposure at like the dog park and just being on walks and understanding that like we wanted him to stay beside us without doing anything crazy training wise, now we take him off his leash and he's fine. Like, there are some moments where he gets overly excited when he sees certain dogs in our neighborhood and he'll sprint towards them even when I'm yelling, Oreo, wait.
Yeah.
But for the most part,
It's hard to
he's
know
good.
why they do the things they do, though.
Yeah.
Like, even raising our dog from a puppy in New York City, like, what hidden things steered her behavior? Like, I honestly think New York City streets are disgusting. Like, especially on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday morning. From the partying, there's pizza everywhere on the Lower East Side. So I honestly think her walking on the sidewalks made her constantly look for food. And because that, like, her behavior is different just because of the
interesting.
pizza of
Yeah.
the Lower East Side.
Wow, that's really
sure.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to know.
For us, it's pretty easy because, you know, we can just pick him up.
Yeah.
You know, he's one of those dogs, like literally just under the arm. He's
And-
Like one?
Yeah.
he's 7 pounds.
Oh.
He's very stubborn
baby.
too. Like if he doesn't want to go one way, he'll be like, I'm not going there. Like
he'll
I
just
want to
stand
go
there.
this way. A lot of the times we just give him his way, honestly. We're big
Sasha
pushovers.
is 45
Oh
pounds.
my goodness. Double hander.
we thought she'd be smaller, but she's a big girl.
Oh,
Literally
Yeah.
8 times the size of Oreo.
yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Jesus. Can't even imagine that.
I know.
And Toronto's cool. Like I've been up there a bunch of times. You know, I thought it's kind of like a mini New York in a sense, not with the waterways and stuff, but I liked it. Do you see yourself being there for a while or?
Well, we're lucky to be in the suburbs. I'm not
okay.
so much of a city guy, you know. Didn't grow up in the city. I would rather just not go half the time. So we're like 40 minutes out of the downtown core.
I like being close to
Okay.
it though. Like there's a lot of stuff there to do, right? There's
Yeah.
entertainment and a lot of art.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you naturally find yourself going into the city, or does it take some kind of effort? Because like we're like 20 minutes from downtown Denver, and like we've been there probably like 10 times.
Yeah, we tend to just not, right? Unless I'm going down there for a meeting or we want to go to the art gallery.
Or if there's like someone playing down there that we really want to go see.
Or some restaurant. Like it has to be a very specific reason.
Mm-hmm.
We won't just go down, right?
Yeah, we don't just go browse around Toronto.
Yeah. Even though maybe
Yeah,
we
what's
should.
the Toronto musician vibe? Like, do you guys have a lot of musician friends, or?
Pretty much all of them.
Yeah, our only friends are musicians,
them?
but it's like 3.
Yeah, and these aren't people we grew up with, right? Like these are people that you met through your music and we're like, oh, you live around here? Cool, let's meet up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have a couple friends with studios and stuff, and it's always really cool, the collaborative stuff that goes down. But Montreal is definitely the better music city, I think.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the musicians here just, you know, they're hip-hop or, well, mostly hip-hop, honestly. Not a lot of people
Are you friends with Drake?
imagine that.
No. That's interesting. Yeah. I definitely find that I miss talking about my work and my thoughts with other creators since moving from New York. Like I take for granted how many creator friends I had there. And I've tried to find some people in Denver, but it's just not enough.
That's pretty interesting, too.
Yeah.
Like, do you find it, you know, maybe not so much now, but do you find that, I'm trying to find a way not to be harsh about this one. Do you find that you get alienated because of, you know, your job? Like even with family and stuff, I find that I kind of do.
And when it comes to making friends in general, like kind of having to
Yeah.
open up about that. Like, oh, I don't just work a 9-to-5 office job. I mean, technically you can say you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people I know have more of a traditional mindset of just doing what is expected of them to make money. Whereas the biggest difference between me and myself and them would be just the trying to get freedom
Yeah.
at every turn. It's weird, you know, especially marrying my wife, because she was opposite of the boat. She was, you know, she fell in love with me partly because of my personality of being free and doing what I want, breaking the mold. And I fell in love with her because she brought some like warmth and comfort and stability and like a vision of the other side. So we definitely met in the middle. But in New York City, there's just so many other people who are like-minded. It's like such a grind, create, hustle, creator-focused city. So I think to do what I do and like have the friends that I had, like being in New York City was so important. Like in my hometown, it would have been so different. Like,
where did you grow up?
Yeah, just upstate New York.
Okay.
Like Rochester. Yeah, so I hiked in the Adirondacks, and I love that area.
Yeah, we love it too. I only really know like the Syracuse area. Is Rochester near that?
A little bit of a drive, but it's like Rochester is closer to Toronto than Syracuse, you know. Finger Lakes, Buffalo, yeah.
Yeah, so we must drive through it. But yeah, the Adirondacks, oh my God. I love that area so much. We try to go up at least once a year.
We actually found out about the Adirondacks through our trip to Colorado, which is really cool.
Yeah, through a friend there. And then when we were first going, I think you already had your video of Mount Marcy up.
Yeah,
and so we were watching that. Still haven't done Mount Marcy,
I
to
really
be fair.
want to.
But, you know, we did the pyramids and we did a bunch of other ones.
It's a very unforgiving area to hike. It's so rooted and mossy or muddy, and just doing. Usually, I could do 20 to 25 miles of most any trail per day, but in the Adirondacks, like I'm lucky if I can do 10. Like it's insane,
really,
how difficult it is. Yeah, honestly.
We did get a taste of that last time. Like we usually go towards the end of August. I can't remember when we went last time. Like what month it was, but anyways,
yeah, it was definitely rainy though.
Definitely a lot more wet than the end of August, and we weren't even going that fast. We were coming down, and I actually slipped on a route. Like it came out. I saw it. I was looking right at it, and my foot just landed weird, and I slipped and smashed the base of my tailbone right off of it. And I was like, I'm fine. Let's keep going. We like pushed through it and everything,
and then we were doing 2 peaks, so you actually did the peak after that somehow.
And then it wasn't until the next day.
2 peaks is ambitious.
Yeah. And then the next day I bent down normally to grab something, and it was just like, oh, no, you're not doing that. And then the whole rest of the trip we were out, and I was like, no. But
and you still want to hike after that?
I still want to go. I love the Adirondacks. Okay. It's great.
Yeah, hiking's more your thing than my thing. I have hiking is hard. Like a lot of people think it's, you know, just walking and stuff, and I'm like, oh my God.
I mean, when you're used to being so sedentary, you know, like
also
you work
growing up in Toronto, you know, there's nothing, you know, our highest elevation's 300 meters or something.
That's true.
Yeah, it's just forest and lakes out there. The further north you go, it's just crazy.
Exactly. But have you ever had to deal with like injuries in the middle of a hike?
No, I should have. The amount that I did and the crazy things that I put myself into, but I've never, you know, other than Kilimanjaro, just starting a big hike sick and then just getting more and more sick.
Oh, wow.
You know, I had to tap out before I reached the summit. No, I've been pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah, lucky. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I've been lucky. Yeah, I'm gonna cash in my chips. I'm not gonna do any more dangerous hikes. People are like, are you gonna do alpine stuff and you know, crazier peaks? And
you gonna do Everest?
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to do those things.
What is the training process like for you when you are getting ready to embark on a bigger trail or hike than ones you've done before? Do you train?
There's really no training other than if there's altitude, you know, elevation involved. If you fly into Cusco, Peru, you'll get hit and feel sick for 24 hours. And then if you do any walking uphill, you know, it'll feel very difficult. So if you're going to do like an even more difficult hike after flying into somewhere like that, you know, you have to actually train and do some day hikes before you go on the big one. But other than that, you know, I'm walking as much as I can every day, and that's also why I love New York City. It's such a walking city.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the altitude. Have you guys ever felt elevation sickness?
In sickness? No.
No, when we were in Colorado, that was the highest elevation we've ever, and we did a hike there as well. I remember we were feeling like we could definitely feel the air.
Yeah, we were out of breath. For
Yeah,
sure.
like the way we were breathing, we were like, this is weird. We've never felt this before. And it was really hot and sunny that day, and we just kept seeing signs saying, like, make sure you drink water, make sure you have sunscreen. So we kept reapplying, drinking water. Like, we made sure to try and do our best to follow those rules so that, you know, nothing bad did happen.
Yeah. Well, I hope at some point you really feel it, like on I don't know. I don't know where, like, I don't know what a good starter is. Probably, honestly, like Cusco. Like,
Yeah.
if you ever want to do the Inca Trail or, you know, Machu Picchu or anything like that, flying into Cusco, you'll feel it. I think you'll feel it. So I'm curious.
Yeah, for sure.
I know there was a video where Mika was with you, and you guys went hiking, and she felt altitude sickness. What hike was that on? I can't remember.
Trying to remember. Probably Colorado,
Okay.
like 13,000 feet.
Yeah.
So Denver's a mile up at like what, 4,000, 5,000?
Mm-hmm.
I should know. Yeah, people typically feel it around 10,000 feet. So
I think that's what we were around 8,000 to 10,000 because we went to Estes Park.
Yeah.
I think it's what it's called. And
Nice.
then whatever road.
Rocky Mountain.
Yeah. It was awesome. But we were only there for like 3 days. It sucked.
Yeah.
Can't wait to go back. But yeah, it was just a weird feeling. You know, it's kind of just
Nauseating almost.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a question about music. It's been something I've been telling, like, I'm sure so many video people are like, I should just start making music. Like, but I feel like ambient and lo-fi is probably easy, like a good start, easier.
Yeah, especially lo-fi.
I don't know.
Mainly
'Cause,
because
like,
it's all in the box, I guess. Like, there's not really
In a box.
in the box, like
There's
done
no
through the
outboard gear.
computer. Yeah,
Yeah.
there doesn't need to be any actual gear, right?
Yeah. I could just use my MacBook to make the music, you're saying, right?
Yeah.
And lo-fi is really good too because there's so many resources, right? Like, just type it in on YouTube and you'll find so many tutorials and sample packs and literal step.
Yeah, I've watched a couple YouTube videos, and it seems good. But then I do the cost benefit analysis. Like, I could go through the work, and it would be hard at first, and spend hours making, you know, my first lo-fi be original. Or I could spend 10 minutes and find some royalty free, and then just properly credit as they ask and be done with it. So it's like, what's the long-term benefit of making my own music if I'm not like becoming get a Spotify artist? And like, cause I've seen a couple YouTube creators make joke raps and then publish it as Spotify artists. And then they start to make more, and it like, they literally become musicians in a sense. And like Joji is one of my favorite musicians, and I think one of the best examples of insane YouTube creator becoming a popular artist. So,
you know, Joji's his whole thing, you know, with was when I was growing up, right? So I like attached myself to that side of YouTube, and it's so weird looking back on it. Like, it was bad stuff, like really bad.
Oh, what he created on videos?
And then, but what he is now, he's like
Insane.
one of the biggest artists in the world. You know,
It's like he tried to, like, you know, there's kind of a meme online that Joji stans who are like 18 years old the moment they find out that Filthy Frank is Joji, they're like, what?
exactly.
Like, this is not okay.
Exactly.
It's such a weird thing. Yeah, I love his music, and like back in the day I liked his stuff, but yeah, they're definitely problematic.
Yeah, and there's so many video essays and stuff coming out about it now. Like every other week, somebody else is bringing it up.
Yeah.
And so you watch them and you're like, Jesus. But making music is just really good, especially if you feel like you start to get good enough to actually release it. You know, like there is money to be made, even though it's, you know, kind of frowned upon to be making music for money or whatever. Especially in the lo-fi space, like there's a lot of outlets there to monetize and, you know, actually build an audience, right? Ambient, not so much, because I feel like a lot of the people who start making ambient get really bored of it. I could be wrong about that, and I don't have any, you know, actual proof or information about that, but it's kind of the vibe that I get. A lot of lo-fi producers make a side project for ambient music, and then they release one album 4 years ago, and they've never come back to it, you know? So it's kind of makes sense, especially because it's not as involved, and you can't, like, you know, not headbang, but like nod to it.
It is different.
Yeah.
Like I remember editing the audio for my hiking films, and as much as possible, I tried to blend, transition, and just kind of soften the natural sounds of the hike so that it kind of became its own ambient soundtrack.
Yeah.
And I liked using some of your stuff and other pieces that had kind of what I would call wind rain vibes, because it was almost like it occurred naturally and wasn't music. It's almost like you get a sense of music, but it's not in your face, you know, which is ambient, which is like that's what ambient means. So it's
exactly. But, you know, a subgenre of ambient music is field recordings, right? Like people take field recordings very seriously and make them musical in abstract ways, instead of just, you know, setting up your field recorder and, you know, recording the trees or a river. Like they make these really intricate pieces, really interesting stuff. But yeah, I don't know. To me, I think everybody should make music. I think it's very rewarding. I think it's, you know, flexes a part of your brain that maybe you wouldn't otherwise. I think editing a YouTube video is a lot like making music, though. I really do think that, because it goes with structure, and it goes with patterns, and even filming. You know, you have your source thing, and then you have to make it into a product kind of thing, in an abstract way, obviously. And even all the programs like Premiere is very similar to FL Studio or Ableton, whereas you get your clips or your MIDI loops, and you can copy paste, and it's all very similar, I think.
So as a musician, are you paying a lot of attention to OpenAI and ChatGPT and all of the AI generation that's going on with graphic arts right now? It's kind of being disrupted.
Yeah, I like it personally a lot of the time. I understand where it can be problematic. I think there's theft, and there's nothing more, you know, organic and nice as like knowing somebody made something. But using AI and generative stuff, like ambient music has had a lot of generative moments in it since the beginning. Brian Eno made stuff in the 70s that was completely generative. Obviously not AI, but it's interesting. And I might, you know, people might hate me for saying I kind of like it, but it can definitely be a tool, right? Like we all use stuff now that wasn't available 10 years ago that just helps with the workflow, right? Like I've been using the AI stuff on Photoshop for years now. I love it. You know, like the AI generated, whatever it's called. I can't even remember the name of it. But
I don't know. Sorry.
But yeah, machines doing this better than humans is just a trend that's happening across all categories, just in different times. You know, graphic design kind of just fell, but the next domino, I would say music would be, I don't know, it's just so mathematical, and there's just patterns that can be analyzed, and there will always be some aspect of like a demand for homemade human generated art. Yeah. And if that increases the price and scarcity, that'll probably happen. But like video, you know, is another domino that will fall. Photo, definitely. All the creative arts, like even just recommendations. Like there used to be a time when only humans would make good recommendations, like where should you work, who should you date, like what is the best movie you should watch right now, what should you eat. Like now algorithms make all those recommendations for us. So it's like, I don't know, I just see a lot of similarities between all of these categories. So Like, at what point will we have an AI be able to just, you input a song that you like, and then it outputs 100 similar songs in that style, but completely original?
And
you know,
there already is stuff like that, and with lyrics and with vocals too, that's the craziest part to me. Like, I can definitely see AI coming for the lo-fi ambient scene, like nothing. You know, that's honestly wouldn't even be that hard, I don't think.
And then they could generate a voice to sing the lyrics that they made. Like, animation, I think, is all, like, I secretly think most of the animation on Netflix is already generated entirely by AI, but like, it's scary, but it's inevitable, and we have to just accept it in our own way.
Yeah,
on our own path.
I'm very opposite from Brady. I'm not so good at accepting the idea of it. I don't like it.
I think that eventually, though, all it will become is a tool. You know,
like it already has. Right?
The best thing ever would be to sit down and not have writer's block, because AI has already come up with the base of what you should do.
I would compare that to painters. Like, I'm sure at some point, like, there's nothing that could paint, like in the Renaissance or whatever era, like, but now there's like machines that can just print a photo perfectly, like every time. So it's like, I see similarities with that.
Yeah, it's going to be both good and bad. I think we're going to go through a big wave of AI just completely messing up everything, like the way that we currently do things. But it'll come back down, and
I don't think it's going to go like that. I think it's going to go on the same path it has, where it's just going to kind of slowly sneak its way into our life. And then we're going to look back and be like, wait, yeah, I got that recommendation from the internet, not from my family and friends.
But you do use AI as a tool, even for, like, I haven't subscribed to anybody on YouTube for years. I just go on my homepage and they know what I want to watch.
Yeah.
But I'm the one picking it. AI isn't the one picking up.
That's
so
true.
It's just a tool in that way. Like, AI could just, I go on my computer and it throws up the video for me and I have to watch it, right? But obviously that might not be a great analogy, but
it is getting better and better. At some point, I think in the near future, it literally could tell you what to watch next, and it would be the perfect thing.
With TikTok, does it not?
Yeah.
I don't use
good point.
TikTok, so I'm not sure how to.
Good point.
But yeah, you click a video and then you just keep scrolling, and you can pick or choose if you want to skip past it, obviously. But it's kind of like right in your face before you have a choice to.
There's good and bad, though.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, as a photographer and a cinematographer and a YouTube editor and stuff, like, how do you feel about that? Are you worried about the next 5 years, 10 years, or are you just kind of going with it?
I don't try to fight it at all. I don't, I have no control over it. And then, like, I can only control what I can control. And that's my understanding of it. The more I understand it, the better decisions I can make myself. So yeah, I don't try to fight it at all. I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah.
Things are changing faster and faster, so it can become scary.
Yeah.
I'm 32, so at what point it's like, do I give up and just become one of those old people? But I still feel the need to stay on the edge and learn things, and it's a struggle.
It's definitely interesting, because at least in my, in ambient music, people have typically embraced technological change, whether it's generative stuff or synthesizers or whatever. Although I do see all the time people, like, just absolutely hating on everything. What's the photo one? Is that OpenAI?
Probably.
Yeah. Honestly, I've actually never used any of them either. I've never actually looked into them. So, I mean, I'm not worried. At least not yet. We'll start seeing when my paycheck goes away. But
but as we gain more tools, I think we'll gain more freedom to, like, find new things to keep us entertained and to create and be creative. So I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, start building our own AI systems. Everybody, that's going to be the artist. That'll be cool. No.
But then the AI is going to create better AI systems than us.
Whoa!
So.
Oh yeah, true. It gets into that.
Yeah. Let's just end this podcast on a super dystopian downer. Need to go watch some movie or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely is an interesting conversation, one that I love. It's like a brain teaser thing, and I love thinking about it. And it feels like it's going slower than maybe it actually is, but I don't know.
Have to wait and see.
Yeah.
The more that I expand like my sphere of like what I pay attention to and care about, like the sadder I get. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
You know, once you expand the bubble to the size of the universe, you're like, none of this matters. But it's like, sometimes it's good to keep within my own little sphere of influence.
Exactly.
Yeah, if I start thinking about AI, it ruins my day.
Oh, no.
With all that being said, though, do you have any other questions or conversation points? I feel like
Did you ask your music question you wanted to ask? That we
Music
interrupted
question.
with the doggy daycare?
I don't know. I actually don't remember.
Yeah.
It was probably...
Yeah, sorry for making this like the least music-based episode you've ever done, probably.
No,
We
it's
went in
cool.
knowing that it was going to be like that, and that's fine. This is more a platform for speaking with other creators and how that does wrap around and connect to music a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like even for you with your influence, like how does music influence you on a day-to-day basis?
I listen to music a lot, but compared to other people I know, I definitely listen to instrumentals more so than usual. I try to find music that matches my mood. So, you know, I listen to a lot of classical, a lot of ambient, a lot of sad music. One comment that I get occasionally, which I think is hilarious, is that like, why are you using such sad music? Like, I thought someone died. Like, why are you using such sad music in your vlogs? Like, I thought you were going to break up with your wife or something. Like, it's just so funny. But I just like using emotional music for some reason. I think it's funny sometimes to just subvert those expectations because, yeah, I don't know what people expect. So thank you for making sadder than usual music sometimes.
You know what's funny about that, though? I've heard so many different things. Like, I'll make a song and I'll be like, oh my God, this is like the saddest song I've ever made. And then I'll put it out and people will be like, this is so uplifting. And I'm like, am I just wired wrong? Like, do I not understand?
You'd be like, are you okay?
Exactly. But are there any, I know a lot of people hate this question. I hate this question too. But are there any like specific artists that you sort of gravitate towards?
I should just have one to the top of my mind, but I'm curious to know what my Spotify says. Also, do you share your Spotify? So people follow artists on Spotify. Does it? Because like when I follow my friends, I can see what they're listening to. But as an artist on Spotify, people can't listen to like what you're listening to, right?
Yeah, not
It's
unless
different.
you make like a playlist or something. That'd be cool though. I think.
But I'm saying like in the friend activity.
Yeah, no, that'd be a really cool feature. I think. Like see who you're following and what they're listening to. People.
Yeah, because that's what I use
a
the friend
feature.
activity for.
But he's talking about you have to be like a friend
yeah.
on it instead of just following like an artist.
But like once you're a verified artist, you're not like a friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you still have like a profile technically, which is where your playlists live, and you can friend those
Yeah.
avatars.
Yeah, true.
But
Because like I've put my personal Spotify playlist out and had people follow, and it's interesting. Like, why would anyone care what music I'm listening to? But it is funny.
I think it's really interesting. It tells a lot about a person.
Not only that, but it expands your own sound palette.
Yeah, if you trust the person, you can definitely find a lot of really good music and stuff.
Yeah, it's the same thing as like what people are watching on Netflix or what movies they watch. People are interested. Personally, like Washed Out has been a big staple of my last couple of years. I don't know if you know them. Tame Impala's great. Recently, I think the genre is called funk.
Oh, you've been into funk, really? Oh, that's funny.
It's so aggressive and insane. I listen to it in specific moments of my life, and it helps me. And then Aphex Twin. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Aphex Twins.
Yeah,
They're great.
So going into that recently.
What is funk?
Funk is like
it's like a weird electronic for internet people.
yeah, it's like really aggressive bass and
Okay.
just aggressive,
yeah,
fast.
yeah.
But also we've been looking into a lot of like gloomcore wave kind of stuff. It fits into that too, the wave
Oh, okay.
stuff. Yeah, I know.
Encore.
I know the name of
That's
it. I'm
hilarious.
like,
Because you think they came up with all the names. Like, how many
Yeah.
more genres of music could there be?
There's still so many, I'm sure.
whoa, funk.
And there's like sub-genres and stuff. It's confusing.
There's so yeah. I think I read an article lately that Spotify has categorized over 4,000 genres. I think it said, like, which is nuts because you haven't heard of more than at least I haven't heard of more than 75 probably. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you pay attention to your For You Discovery playlist?
I did for a while. I haven't lately, like the Discover Weeklies and stuff, and like the
Yeah,
Made for
whatever
Yous.
it's called.
I find mine's very repetitive. Like,
Yeah, we listen to our daily mixes a lot.
yeah, but it's always the same songs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, am I doing something wrong? Like, I listen to other stuff during other times, and then sometimes we're like, I just want to put on something that I know I'll vibe with right now. And I go to my daily mixes, which is all curated by Spotify, and I'm like, this is the same songs as last year. Like,
Yeah.
or, a week ago.
As easy as it is to like discover new music now, I find it so difficult, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I only find a new artist once every, like maybe once a month. I'll get really into a new artist. Maybe that's a little bit too much.
I find new artists frequently. I don't get attached to new artists frequently.
Oh yeah, that's fair too.
Yeah.
Do you guys make a ton of playlists on Spotify, like for each season of your life, like my wife does?
Oh, that's so sweet. Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, we make a lot of them. It kind of sucks too because, my Alaskan Tapes playlist is like public, so like people are really looking for that. So you kind of start to overthink it instead of putting stuff that you're really liking on there. But yeah, we have a lot of private ones.
Yeah.
For sure, that we go back to every day mostly.
Because I'm very much trust in the algorithm. I'll just listen to a playlist, and then whatever song I like the most, like I'll listen to that playlist to the death, and then once I'm feeling something new, I just make a new radio from one of those songs.
That's
and then do
smart.
the same thing to that.
Yeah.
So I just jump from curated playlist to playlist.
I
Which-
enjoy doing that.
I've been hearing a
Unique,
lot
probably.
of people do that, like the artist radio or song radio. That's like the new thing to do, and I'm surprised that Spotify hasn't made it easier to do that.
Are you guys all Spotify, or do you use Apple Music?
Pretty much Spotify.
Just
Yeah.
Spotify.
Pretty
Yeah.
much Spotify.
Yeah, I subscribe to all of them because you kind of have to.
I guess
But-
I use YouTube Music as well, but that's more for like live videos. I like to watch a lot of live music
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
Music videos.
Yeah.
especially the live one, like the live performances.
Yeah.
Are you guys still making music videos? How much is the video aspect of like the visuals for your music is that of any interest?
Oh, absolutely.
Or thought?
I love it. Right, the songs that have had high budget music videos for me are the ones that always stick out to me and mean the most. But they're so expensive to do and so complicated. Like
And you don't really ever make your full money back.
you never make your money back. No,
Yeah.
it's like passion projects.
It's a marketing
Yeah.
marketing thing, right?
But nothing pushes it anymore, The way that I do music videos is like allow a director or DP to make a short film, and then we kind of just put the music to it, and we say it's both a short film and a music video at the same time.
Okay.
That's what I like.
Because I think there was a point in my life where I would discover new artists because of the music video. But I think that's changed. Yeah, I don't know what the value of music videos are these days.
Yeah, it's not very high. We still discover a little bit of music, especially
Yeah.
when it's like an animated music video or something, like something really interesting, or a dance video or something.
Or more story based. So any type of music video, essentially.
Yeah, sometimes they'll just get on our radar.
Yeah.
I bet social media in general just changed the value of music videos. Like before, music videos was like
The thing.
really important.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is now too is like you're kind of expected to have a music video for every song you put out now, or at least
That's crazy.
At least a visualizer, right? Like some sort of visual asset. Because what are you going to post on Instagram if you don't have some sort of visual movement, right? So it's a really interesting thing.
That's what I would call a port. You originally made the piece for audio, but if you want to make it more accessible to people on the platform of their choosing, I would call that a port.
Oh,
You
okay.
make the YouTube version, you make the you know. So if I made a video for YouTube, if I want to just rip the audio and put it on Anchor for a podcast, I would call that a port, you know. And if I shoot a YouTube video and then crop it and trim it for TikTok, you can tell that it's not originally made for that platform, so it just doesn't have the same effect. So yeah, every video you would make would probably be a port, right?
Pretty much, I think. Yeah, the music is never really made, unless I'm scoring something, it's never really made for visuals. It's always just something after the afterthought, right? Where you're just like, I hope this works, you know, a video of flowers or something that are all distorted or whatever.
Because you don't have to have a music video. You know, the music, the audio file is the most important, and everything else is just additional.
Yeah, I think most of the streaming services, you can't even watch music videos on them anymore. I know you can on like Apple now, and I think Amazon maybe, but Spotify you can't, I don't think.
Do they let you do the little like 3-second loops on Spotify? I've been seeing so many of those. Is that the new music video?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know how much I like those either, because it's so limiting. And like they say that, you know, it gets listened to 20% more when it has a canvas, which is what those are called.
A canvas.
Yeah, okay. And I don't see that. You know, majority you can see how many times the canvas was viewed versus how many times the song was listened to. And it doesn't correlate, really.
I feel like people usually go to Spotify and stuff to listen to music and they turn their phone off.
Yeah.
So that's probably why, right? But I've even done it a couple times where if I'm looking at what I'm listening to and there's a cool visual to it, I'll go type in that song and see if there is a music video that goes along with it. So
that's true. Yeah, especially if they have a very interesting one. Yeah. It's usually ported from the music video. Yeah, which is how we found... I can never remember his name.
Still Woozy. Well, actually, no, I found him through Instagram because I follow Felicia Chow, the artist, and she shared that she was a part of the music video, and then we watched the music video. So it wasn't through Spotify.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
But it's kind of similar to an album art, right? Like music doesn't need album art, you know, unless you're doing vinyls. Like you could just have a generic profile pic for your artist profile and just use that. But like people choose to have different art for different albums. So it's like choosing different art for the canvases is just a further extension of that, right?
Exactly, because especially since it doesn't have to match the single art or whatever, it's just an extension on the meaning of the song or the mood of it, which really concretes the sort of idea of it, which is really interesting when you start to think about music and like how much else actually goes into it and like what you need to think of. Because I think for you, it's like the opposite. You need to start thinking about the thumbnail once the edit is done, right? Which how much time do you put into that? Do you spend any time?
Not that much.
Yeah.
I know that I could get more views if I put titles in my thumbnails, but I never do, just out of principle.
Okay.
Yeah, like most things, there's just more work you could do to get more views and more money and more attention. But at some point, you have to say, enough is enough. I'm happy.
Yeah. You don't want to put the red circle with the arrow pointing to it.
I could probably get more views if every hike had a secret that you have to click the video to find out. But
clickbait.
You'll never expect what he found on this hike.
Exactly. And it was himself the whole time.
I like that you stick to your values, though. Like you seem like you know what you want to do with your film and your stuff. And you know, you don't let anything else gear that.
Yeah, it feels good. It feels like comfortable, like, you know, it's trustworthy almost, right?
Yeah.
As a creator. Instead of, you know, pandering to every single little cliche or whatever that most people play. You know, it's a game now to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just do as much as they can to get every single little value of watch time. And it's really interesting.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be tough, like describing what that is, though. Like, as much as I don't want to I just want to exist and do, and just let anyone come to any conclusions and put me in whatever boxes they want. Whereas if you constantly compare yourself in opposition, like defining who you are by not being this person or doing this, I don't know. I feel like that could be like a slippery slope.
For sure.
So, yeah, it's tough talking about labels. It's just easier to let other people do it.
For sure.
And I see the similarity with like social media. Like I am not on Twitter. I don't want to be on Twitter just because it wasn't bringing much joy. Like obviously there's some value that could be gained from it, money and attention wise, but yeah, I'll just let other people talk about me on Twitter if they want. Yeah, I compare that to just like placing labels and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Damn, there's so much I got to think about today. You guys are killing me. In a good way. Like, I just shot, like, I'm going to edit the video, but I've got so many more ideas. You've invigorated the passion I have for, like, not only just trying to figure out what it is that I am thinking and want, but just, like, how I could express it. So, you know, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we, like, got to chat. And if I'm in Toronto or you're in New York, let's, of course, meet up.
Absolutely.
Grab a coffee. Are you guys coffee drinkers?
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of We All Speak in Poems, and a big thank you to Kraig Adams as well. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you in about 2 weeks.